Tell me how we met.
At the gym, I was out lifting you, and you got really angry.
Very.
And it
Offended.
turned heads, very offended, and you accused me of stealing something.
Yeah. Then you called me a Karen.
I did, because you were being a Karen.
I've learned a lot over the 4 decades of health and fitness and being in the trenches with the greatest in the world. And one of those things I've learned a lot more about and how to build better muscle is nutrition and how it has changed over the decades. And that's why I have the Titan meal plan for you guys out there that are confused about nutrition. I'm gonna set you straight. Get a hold of me today. The link will be in the comments down below for you guys. Everybody, get over to the Titan meal plan, and I'll see you in the Titan crew where I will fine tune any difficulties that you're having.
It was actually really annoying. And you're interrupting my workout. And then people are trying to take pictures of me, and then you're interrupting that.
I'm sorry. I want to apologize for our first meeting.
It's okay. You're forgiven.
I saw you through Bedros, and I was listening to just some of the discussions that you had from Mark Bell to Bedros and so on and so forth. And it was like, I like this. And ironically enough, I find you and the day before we actually meet.
Isn't that crazy?
I think social media is so cool that way that I found you from the circle of close friends that I have. And I'm like, if they're following her, let me see what this is about. And then I was like, yeah, I'm in love. This is gold. And then I meet you the next day over at my house, Gold's Gym Venice. And you were very kind to me. And you were actually willing to change your flight home to come over to the castle and do a sit down.
How could I not?
I appreciate
it. It was serendipitous, right? Meant to be.
Well, I appreciate this because you really specialize in men. Can I say that? Men's health?
I say I specialize in men.
Yeah.
Yeah. However you want to interpret that is up to you.
I specialize in men too. That doesn't sound as good. But what is some of the background that you studied and saw there was a niche that they're missing or someone is not talking about it in that sense? If that makes sense to you.
No, it does, because first of all, being a female in men's health is not normal.
Why would I go to you? Right. You're a female. Exactly. What do you know about my journey?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I knew nothing. And there's a lot of male coaches that specialize in women's health. And even that is strange for a lot of people, but it's more normal. So I had my degree in exercise science, went through all of that. So I've been doing this about 20 years. And I started working with golfers as I graduated college, because everyone wants to work with athletes, but they had no money. And being in strength conditioning, I'm like, oh, golfers they're athletes. And where I lived in Connecticut was right outside New York City. So all the Wall Street guys, they played golf. They wanted to hit the ball farther than their friends, but then they're like, yo, how do I get abs? How do I get, rid of this, or like stuff like that? And I'm like, so you really don't care about golf. You actually want to look good naked. Interesting. So there was something there. Then you realize they're taking all this bullshit off the shelves, test boosters, random supplements. They never go to the doctor unless their dick stops working. So understanding that that's where men's health was, I was like, so nobody talks to you about this stuff. There's something here. So I literally jumped in, learned everything I could about men's hormones and men's health. And I'm very bro-y myself, and being bro-y myself and loving sports and cars, it just came naturally that I related to guys a lot easier. And so that's where it kind of popped off back in like 2012. I started getting to know different doctors and all that. I don't know if you remember Dr. Carlin Kolker. He used to write for MD. And he was in Bigger, Faster, Stronger and everything. And he was the first one I reached out to be like, yo, can I just like hang out with you and learn everything? And he's like, sure. Cause his office was in Greenwich, Connecticut, where I grew up. And so we just shot the shit, and he taught me everything he knew. And then from there on out, I was like learning about everything from all different docs and stuff. And I basically drove that angle on social media. And now every time somebody sees something penis related or a meme or anything, they send it to me. So I'm the person they think of when they see this.
Nice. Wow. You found the niche.
I did. But there is a gap. There is a gap because women's health, like women go on hormone replacement, nobody bats an eye. A guy wants to consider TRT and it's cheating and steroids and it's so highly stigmatized. I wanted to normalize the conversation around men's health for guys. And I feel as a female, like I provide that empathetic ear, but also I am a woman who's saying, hey, this may not be normal, but it is very common.
It's interesting because you said something. I'm going to jump back just a couple paragraphs because you said men will jump on test boosters and stuff and they won't check with a doctor blood work. Do they not know they can? Is that something? Is there a disconnect on you don't do it for just those kind of over the shelf stuff, or you don't check it because I'm 30, I'm 40, I don't need to check it, so why would you check it until something like your ED or not performing? That's not you, honey, it's me. Why would they wait? What is that in the mind? Why wouldn't they? Yeah, I mean, just
culturally, it's a sign of weakness that if something's wrong or something might be wrong, then getting blood work means they have to confront what that is. But I think guys also associate testosterone levels with, does my penis function? So I could get a hard on, therefore I don't have low T, where there's all these other symptoms like the brain fog and the lack of cognitive clarity and motivation and all that stuff. So knowing where you are health-wise is so important. And a lot of guys think that they're just too young because conventional medicine doctors have said, well, you look like you're in shape. You don't need to test your testosterone. You look amazing. Like, since when is that a marker of complete health? I mean, we know bodybuilders, even natural bodybuilders, are in probably the worst health and the lowest testosterone when they step on stage from the dieting and just all the extreme shit that they do. And so guys don't think like, oh, I'm 25 and I should probably get my testosterone checked as a baseline. It's not something they want to do. They don't want to go to the doctor. They don't want to confront that type of thing. So I think that's where that comes from.
Yeah. Just a side note, just for anybody that's watching this, just get your blood work done.
Yeah.
It just
so easy now.
It makes no sense to me that you wouldn't do that. And I wish it was available back in the dark ages when I was doing this stuff, because I would have done it when 20. I would have been curious to that. And then I've talked about my dad being a low T, and we lost him early in life because of the issues that may cause later in life. So that's a huge thing that I think anybody can do. And I think a cop out is anybody going, hey, I'm going to go to the doctor, but I don't want to find out if something's wrong.
Right.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Of course you do. I don't care what it is. You want to find out before the fact. It's easier to fix. Is it not? Or am I? No, it's not. It's hard either way. What's your take on that? No pun
intended.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
Let's just say Ali G1, Titan 0 as so far. I love that. Yeah, I just think anybody that's watching this, go get checked.
Yes. That way you can do something about it. And maybe the news might not be what you want to hear, but I think more guys more often than not want to be able to do something so that they can function and perform optimally as a man. They can show up as the dad they want to be, as the husband they want to be, the brother, the son, whatever it is. They think, again, low T equals erectile dysfunction, and it's not always that. And if you have erectile dysfunction, probably at a higher risk of some sort of cardiovascular event or health issue. And a lot of guys deal with heart disease, and you're actually more prone to a heart problem and cognitive problems as you're older if you have lower testosterone.
You just jumped way forward. Holy shit.
I know, but it's just they get excited.
I'm going to slow you down a little bit. No, because I want them not to miss. You have so much knowledge, and I want to stay with just for a second longer basics on the baseline. You said, I think is a brilliant thing. And I don't care if you're a natural bodybuilder or you're gassed out of your mind, whatever you do with your life, or you're an athlete, or you're the guy that doesn't want to have the dad bod. Get a baseline, I think, is a brilliant thing. Then you can see. And I don't care if you do test boosters or whatever it is. At least you know, does it work?
Right.
Does it do anything to you? Or are you spending money that it doesn't work? What is wrong with gauging your own process instead of relying on somebody else? Hey, doesn't everybody go to the big guy in the gym? Hey, what do you take?
Yeah.
Well, do some creatine. It's like, there's a level of you got to take care of responsibilities for yourself. Test your blood, and wouldn't that help? What's your thought?
You would think, yeah. But I think from your question earlier, guys just don't know it exists. They don't know how easy it is. You literally don't have to leave your house. Like, you have a phlebotomist come to your house, take your blood. It doesn't get any easier. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to show up to a doctor's office. You have to wait in line at LabCorp. Like, literally very low price, done. No excuse.
There's none. There's no more excuses for that. So now that you caught up to us on that and why we believe that you should just get a baseline, jump forward into this next process. And I agree with you. Men think low T means you're not manly. And I've been in this industry long enough to know, I know guys that are at 1,000 that can't lift. And I know guys that are at 400 have great energy. So what is the misconception that we don't know about test levels for the individual relative to the mass?
I think a lot of guys, because they'll ask, well, where should I be? And whether they're on TRT or not, it's more the question of, well, how do you feel? Because like you said, a lot of guys can be very high. Again, the range is now lowered. We can talk about that. But a man with a natural level of testosterone of 600 may feel like, and a guy who has a natural level of 700 may feel amazing. So it's, again, symptomatic as well, because you don't want to go by what's just on the paper. And it doesn't mean just total T is the marker of who you are and everything about you. A lot of guys will wear their total testosterone number as their bench press number. And again, it doesn't tell the whole story. So if you don't feel like you think you should, granted you're eating the right way, training, sleeping, all the health stuff, maybe you need a higher level, maybe you don't. But how are you going to find that out unless you get labs done and you address everything else lifestyle wise too? But
I've been told numerous times that anybody can build muscle, anybody can be strong if they just do T. Is that so?
There is one study, because I've been ridiculed about this online, because I've said you can sit on the couch, inject whatever the hell you want. It doesn't mean you're going to turn into Michael Hearn the next day and look amazing, right? Oh yeah, there's studies that show you can do that, blah, blah, blah. And it was like 600 milligrams of test and some muscle growth occurred. Okay. Still, again, that's one population, right? Or I don't know the size or the sample size, but if you're on TRT often gets confused with super physiologic doses. It's literally replacing what you should already be biologically producing. But guys think, oh, that's the last thing I need. I'm not gaining any muscle because I've been lifting for like 3 minutes. And then all of a sudden, there's no progress. And I think giving the time to eat and train. How long have you been doing it?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. So yeah, give it at least 7.
But it was funny because I was just at the Olympia and I'm looking at these cats walking around. And I said this the other day, it's you and I probably know, we do know guys and girls that eat terrible and they train once a week. And they still look like superheroes.
Yeah.
And then we know guys and girls that take TRT, train and eat right, and they look average. And then we know guys and girls that take a shitload and they diet and they look bad. It's like people don't think individuals, they think mass.
Yeah.
This whole crew over here that look great on stage are all doing the same thing. If I do that, I'll look just like them. I'll look like Phil Heath if I do what he's doing. It's like, no, you won't. Yeah. So I know this is outside. This is just common sense and stuff. But when you have that discussion with somebody, a girl especially too, is like, a girl will say, well, it's time to get on TRT. They're going through menopause or something's going on. I don't want to look like that.
Don't worry.
But that's still a thing that you kind of have to coach them, don't you?
Yeah, because they think it'll happen so rapidly. And without laughing, I have to explain that that's not the way it works. But I think back in the day.
Also, I don't want to minimize what it does, because I think what it does for people is makes them healthy and incredible.
Oh, of course.
And I work with somebody that helps people. But I also want people to be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to become Mr. Olympia. That's not the goal of
Right.
what you and I teach, I think. I think we teach them to be the most healthy person, to live the most optimal life.
Bingo. That I'm always preaching that, because as a fitness professional, I want to get guys in the best position possible for when they do end up on testosterone. You can't take somebody who's over 20% body fat, inject an exogenous hormone that the body doesn't want, because that body fat is making them in an inflammatory state, unhealthy, and expect that everything's going to be great. And all of a sudden you're just going to drop all the body fat without having to train and, look the way you want. There is merit to the fact that getting healthier actually makes testosterone work better. But back in the day, like, people used to ask, what workout or what are you eating to look this way? And now they don't. They're like, what's your stack?
Yeah.
They don't even consider the training aspect.
Wow, you just hit that out of the park. That hurt me physically, because I see the misstep.
Yeah.
They go from ground zero to stacking and not even doing compound movements or anything like that, or setting themselves up to win later. It's just one aspect. So
yeah, they've been training for like less than a year, literally, and they're complaining that there's no progress. And then they think, well, TRT will make all my dreams come true. And like you said earlier, I have seen dramatic transformations, not necessarily just physical, mental, emotional, all that stuff from guys.
I wish more people would take that. I know that we're talking about the one thing, but I wish they would take the, besides the body, the mind approach. It changes. You're such a different human when you start getting that regimen of eating healthy for you. I don't mean body. And guys, don't go to me saying, hey, getting ready for Mr. Universe and win that again. I'm saying just eating healthy for you and training healthy for you. That's what I'm talking about. It changes an individual.
It changes them. They also have to change their identity a lot. Like, a lot of guys don't realize that this actually can be in a complete 180 from who they thought or who they were, with editing their relationships with friends. Maybe you used to drink alcohol every weekend and now you don't want to. You're going to get from those friends. Guys who want to improve themselves, even if they do want to go on testosterone or it's that time, there's a lot of judgment from a lot of people sometimes. Oh, you're cheating, or you just want the easy way out or whatever. Actually, no, this is health. And this is health combined with everything he's doing in the gym to change himself. He's just triggering what you don't want to do or can't.
I love that you said that you will get, it's easier to pull somebody down than raise them up to your level.
100%.
And that's a sad thing to say and hear.
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't that case, but it really is.
Have you met guys where they literally, and I'm sure you have, or even your friends, they were very low T, apathetic, just no motivation, overweight, stuff like that. And then they get their shit together, they end up on testosterone, and it's like they're a whole new man.
A whole new person.
And the confidence exuding from them and just the way they talk. I've seen this with clients where I want to like cry, because I'm like, dude, you had no confidence when we met. You were so unsure of yourself. And now you're like literally speaking with authority.
Listen, I mean, honestly, this is like Stan Efferdin. That's how I look at him, and I'm glad Stan's got a little more confidence today, which is nice, and a little bit more get up and go, which is makes me happy to see my boy Stan getting a little bit better.
Despite his love for Cheesecake Factory.
With that being said, now let's jump. I know I want to be Debbie Downer, just so they understand that nothing's a miracle.
Yeah.
But there is help. There's so much help. And as soon as you let go of what everybody else says around you and take care of yourself, whatever level that is, you change your circle, you change your life, you change your focus, you change everything. But now let's talk about how great maybe going down that venture of HRT, TRT is for someone that does need it. Because not everybody needs it.
No.
I think everybody should get blood work. What's your feel on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of that. I think just even knowing where everything else is too, because if you get your blood work when you're 47 for the first time ever, it's kind of like your first body fat test. Like, okay, can't really, change much off of this, where you can, but that's like a baseline where you're going to see where the trend goes. So if you get your labs done and then there's stuff that you can change, or maybe you want to change your lifestyle to change those numbers, then now you can compare them in, 6 months or a year. But if people don't do that, you're just guessing. Literally.
Oh, come on. What's wrong with guessing?
I mean, it's fun, but
If you are confused about training, do not worry. That's what the Titan training plan is for. For you guys to subscribe to this plan, you also get the additional coaching from me in the Titan private group. Get in there today, and I cannot wait to start working with you and making your dreams come true. Let's get back to the show. It's funny because these things are social media. We started with that because that's how I got to meet you.
Yeah.
And within seconds, we were friends. And there's so many great things about today, like companies that do this. You're with Merit Health, is that right?
With Merit, yeah.
So there's places to go to do this kind of stuff. We're back in the 70s and 80s. It wasn't.
Nothing. I don't think labs were sold online till around 2014.
Crazy, right?
It's crazy. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Computers, internet, 1999. Like, that's not that far.
Yeah, my first website, I think, was back then. Hey, come on, train with me. But we were in that, for me, back in the days, it was, you don't see the doctor because you really wouldn't about something like that. And there was such a stigma, where I like the fact that nowadays, if you really want to have longevity, checking your blood is the number one thing to kind of get you on the right track.
Right.
And then you can schedule out your workouts and diets and everything around that and move forward. And then in time, if you need extra help, there you go.
Yeah. That literally provides like the entry for men to be able to do something about it too. And in a non-judgmental way.
And it's not just men, it's women as
and women
well.
too. Yeah. And being able to address stuff without judgment, I think, is huge, especially for the guys, because I think it's already a highly stigma, weird world for them to like get labs done, or maybe I need testosterone. I don't know. But there are a significant amount of men who have a history of erectile dysfunction. They don't want to admit that.
Of age, maybe over 40.
Yeah, I think it's 1 in 4, but there's a lot of guys that slide in my DMs, 27, 26, that feel comfortable having that discussion.
I said 40 just because it probably gave us a good idea, but I agree that friends of mine that are 27, 28, and they tell me their T levels are at 400, 300. And I'm like, wow, what'd you do? Well, in college, this is what, and in high school when I was playing, I did. It's like, wow, you're so young that you messed yourself up. And I was just with, what's the name? KO'd Kenny. Lost all of his gains.
Yeah.
I said to him, he didn't feel it. I said that he started at 27. I was like, my gosh, that's young. And he started extreme. And now he's going to have to be on TRT the rest of the time.
Yeah.
Now he's a good example of somebody that's on TRT, but doesn't look like he even works out to me. That being said, you don't become a freak by doing it, but it does keep you healthy. And if you guys are young, go talk to somebody and get that going. Because I don't like that 50-year-olds are not living their best life. So imagine how I feel about late 20-year-old kids not living their best life, and they're not going to live their next 60 years. It's like, oh no, you got so much more, kid.
Think about when you were 22, 23. These kids don't leave the house. They're not
22,
social.
23 right there. World champ, kicking ass, taking names.
Baby.
I would hate for anybody not to optimize their life. And I guess that's a term we would use, right?
Yeah.
Optimize. It's not about 100 years. It's about the best years that you're here.
The quality matters too. Like, there are guys who can't get to the gym because it hurts to like physically get up and go to the gym. And I'm like, yo, like that's a problem, especially at any age. I mean, really.
Right.
But the prevalence among the younger kids is a little bit mind blowing because they should be out, chasing women and like wanting to have sex and be social. That's not a thing. They're dealing with more ED and lower testosterone than when we were growing up, which is so strange.
Why is that?
I think a lot of it has to do with the sedentary lifestyle, the obesity in America and all of that. But think of the onset of social media and video games and all of that. Like we would be out playing, called in for dinner when the street lights would go off.
You're from my era, baby.
Yeah.
She's living my life right now.
They don't have that. They, they're in the basement reading about SARMs, stuff like that.
Well played. Well
So,
played. Knocked
yeah.
it out of the hole. So let's keep going here and talk about something that's again, like Jeff's just said, some of the 40% by 40 men have ED.
Wow.
And then 70, pretty much nobody's batting, which is harsh. I'm a decade away. So it's like, what would we be looking for? And you said something, I want you to talk about this. Does testosterone relate to hard-ons? So if you got high T, automatically you got a good one. If you don't, you don't. Is there any in-betweens or anything like that?
So I like that question because it goes back to men associating hard-on with testosterone only. So yes, it helps it, but there's really three things that affect it, which is your biochemistry, which is testosterone, blood flow. So if you're unhealthy or if you have some sort of blockage or varicocele or something like that, that's going to affect it. And then the brain. So stress, all of that. And I think the majority of younger guys upwards of 60 years old probably are so stressed out. And the way I like to use or explain it is an analogy for the fitness industry. If you're performing a 1RM max on any lift whatsoever, you're literally, say a squat, coming out of the hole, literally your eyes are bulging, you're shaking, you're holding your breath, you're turning purple, you're about to poop your pants, super stressful environment. Some chick walks by, is like, yo, let's go. Like to shift gears. I mean, I know you could probably do, but very few people can just pop a boner right away. That is the impact that stress has on your body. And now that people are so stressed out all day during the day, abusing stimulants like I am with caffeine and stuff like that, they don't realize that that has a massive impact. So guys don't consider that. They just think something's wrong with me. And now I feel depressed about it. If they get help, oh, you're too young to have any ED or testosterone issues. Here's an antidepressant and it makes it worse. Oh. And that's the vicious cycle. And they're like, well, testosterone is going to be the thing that saves me. And yeah, testosterone can help libido, but it's not everything. So if you're stressed out and your brain is constantly fight or flight, it's not saying, oh yeah, let's go procreate. It's saying, no, let's survive.
Because I know a lot of guys at Golds that have unique numbers on their testosterone levels, very high, impressive numbers, but they have ED. And so that was one of the things that is, I think, to the public, confusing.
Yeah, that is a common thing. And there is.
So what happens with possibly something that, how would you say this in a nice way? Blasting.
Yes.
and causing damage to yourself that you don't know about.
So there are a few things or a few reasons why I think this happens. First thing is unresolved trauma or not dealing with the ED before the onset of testosterone. So for whatever reason, if there was low libido for a mechanical issue, or if it's actually stress induced or just unresolved traumatic issues, like an example of that would be
being
a younger
Catholic boy and a priest.
Exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
I mean, I went to all girls Catholic school,
Father Johnson, I still miss you, my friend.
Can you tell me that story after? But that comes back to haunt them. Like if you had a girl comment on like your inability to achieve erection when you're 17 or something, that may come back to haunt you when you're 27. You just don't realize it.
Wow.
So that's part of it. But also with testosterone, it's a sympathetic driven hormone. So you take somebody who is very stressed and you add something that's going to exacerbate that, that's going to cause some problems. And then psychologically, they're all messed up because they're like, well, why do I have ED? I'm on testosterone. And the acronym I use for that, because it has to do with the nervous system. So you have your parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest, calm, like, breath work, all that stuff. And then the sympathetic, which is fight or flight, point and shoot. So parasympathetic, point, erection. Need to be calm to achieve erection. Sympathetic would be ejaculation. So sympathetic, coming out of the hole for a 1RM, you're probably not going to be able to achieve a boner. So thinking of those two and how they mess with your ability to achieve erection is important for guys to remember, because they're going to revert to, okay, something's really wrong with me, or you just might be stressed out.
I also got to make a note that I'm just writing this down. Stop having boners while squatting out of the hole.
It's offensive. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I wear gray sweats. I try to give back, trying to help. That being said, you were talking the other day, and I thought it was so great because Jeffrey was doing his homework and stuff, and I was listening to some of your stuff, and you were talking about foods.
Yeah.
And the reason I like this,
I like food.
And I really like that Stan is doing a lot of this and getting this information out there. He's just don't tell him I said this. He's very articulate and charming. So when he does talk about foods, it's to the basic person can understand it.
Yes.
And you were doing the same thing in a great way. You were talking about from fats, from nuts, from foods, proteins, and carbs that may help raise your testosterone. Because we also said earlier in the show, and if you guys didn't hear, I'll just clarify, when you're getting ready for a show, even a natural guy or not, that's the worst they feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's the worst their body is, because they have to look like such an art piece. You're kind of destroying yourself at the same time. And we're okay with that for the moment.
Right.
But we don't want to live there.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a twofold. I would like you to talk about foods. And then I would like you to talk about what social media is doing. Stay with me on this. To where my era got to refeed the body for 9 months and lift heavy and do basic stuff, but grow and get better. And the only reason I'm here today is because that young teenage 20-year-old power lifter continued to try to get better and set myself up for 50s, 60s. And I continue to go off season to let the body recover. And so I'm taking in a surplus of calories. I'm doing less workouts, but just more intense. Where social media, tell me if I'm wrong, cuts that out because of the fact if you don't look good, you're not showing your abs on social media. You're not popping the top during every single workout. You're not flexing. You're not showing the glutes and all that stuff. So these kids, and I say this when it comes to wrestling, I hate the fact that wrestling is in school and they allow the kids to cut weight during puberty. I hate that. Just because you're given a height, but you're not going to get there if you're going through puberty in a deficit.
Oh.
So what they're doing is building a base, which is great. And they're getting cut and they're showing their bodies and they're getting their 2, 3, 5 million followers, whatever it is. But they're setting themselves up in 20 years to not be able to maintain that. So where do we go with food? Where do we go with a surplus or a deficit? Do you stay in a deficit all the time? What's your philosophy?
So
you see the hardship there?
Yeah.
And I know it's not an easy question to answer because they got to build their brand. They got to go to work. But at the same time, they got to understand they have a life to live in 10, 20, 30 years. And I'm hoping the individual will be more intelligent by 10, 20, 30 years. We're all smart when we're 20. I know everything at 20, right?
Yeah.
And then I was 30. I'm like, wow, that 20-year-old was an idiot. And so on. How do you help them?
That's because I can relate to them. Because being female, we chronically are told be smaller, diet. I think body dysmorphia affects both men and women to the same degree. Men just don't talk about it as much. But when I talk to clients, I'm like, listen, I know that you understand what it's like to feel obese when you can still see like a 4-pack. Because I've been there. Because the leanest that you get, anything above that is going to feel awful, right? I freak. If I lose my abs, I don't like that. I really don't like that. And I feel like it's going to be perceived as like a discredit. If I'm on social and I gain weight as a female who usually looks muscular to a degree, all of a sudden, oh, she let herself go. Like,
this
blah,
is
blah, blah.
huge because you're not building, you're there, you're established, you're someone that people go to. So for even someone at your level with your strong wit, mind, and everything, it's still something there for you, which I love the fact, the vulnerability and your honesty on that. So you guys, and don't believe that I said that question knowing it's a hardship.
Yeah.
I do know that. And so I know it's not easy.
Guys struggle just as much. And I joke that, like, you know, the women's 1,200 calorie mark, like that's where all women think that that's the magic number. For guys, it's like 1,800. Literally, I have had so many guys. I asked clients, I'm like, where did you start when you came to me? He's like 1,850, 1,800, 1,900. Like, that's the magic man number. Then they get lean, but then they're disappointed because they don't look as big. So they feel skinny fat. And then they're like, wow, now I'm going to bulk. I'm going to dirty bulk. Whatever. Gain a bunch of weight. They get upset that they've gained too much fat. So then they crash diet the fat and they look skinny fat again. It's a vicious cycle for guys that they don't know how to get out of. And that's where I help them, where it's usually the macros are all over the place. They're not eating enough protein. They're afraid of carbohydrates. Like, that still plays a role in the back of the mind. Because think of nutrition, like, you can literally change someone's religion a lot quicker than you can their opinion or beliefs on nutrition. And we've swung the pendulum so hard in the fitness industry where, oh, you have to eat all the fat. Nope, low fat. Like, remember in the 90s, Snackwells?
Yeah.
Everything was fat free, like all cookies, all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, well, fat's good. All the fat. So not only do you have avocado, you have avocado with bacon and eggs and coconut oil, and dump all that in your coffee. Like, that's where the pendulum swings in our industry. So no wonder people are more confused than ever. But now social media has made it so, well, if you don't see anything within 3 weeks, hop to the next program and then hop to the next program. Whereas back in the day, program was for months. You ate a certain way for months, but you didn't have that appearance on social to worry about. So if you looked a certain way, like, who cares? And then you get your photos, and where were we? MySpace, like, that was like the first social media thing. So that was where you would see pictures, but nobody was following anyone with a camera and nobody was watching. So you didn't have to worry about what you looked like.
I got my first lecture from Joe Weider. Look down to the bottom right. You're the right. Sorry. See the 5 girls? Yeah. There's a reason why there's 5 girls around me.
Why?
I'm off season. On the cover. Just won the powerlifting, California powerlifting, same year, the judo, California judo, and also the universe that year. But I was off season doing judo more than the bodybuilding and powerlifting. So I was off season. I show up and Joe's like, "You're fat, Mike. Never take off your clothes when you're off season. All right, girls, come on in here. Cover them up." And so his point, and I remember it to this day, is keep covered up when you're off season. Never show it until you're the very best. And it was such a cool thing because before social media, my social media was newspapers, the news, the television, and the magazines. So since '87, when I'm in the magazines, Michael Hearn looks a certain way. And I look back at the off-season photos and I'm like, it's not as bad as you think. It's always like 10 years later, you look back and you go,
like, how did I think I was fat?
Why did I think I shouldn't show it, or that's bad?
Yeah.
It's like, where my off-season still got a cover shot and stories inside. It's like, there's got to be some kind of love of the process.
100%.
And I think I fell in love with that, being such a kid during the great late 70s, early 80s with these guys off season. I'm like, I like off season. I like this nastiness of knowing that I got to eat the calories and lift that weight and stay in the monotonous of these 5 exercises and just do the freaking work and outlast everybody else, because they're going to get bored of it in 2 months. I'll stay the 9 months. Oh, they're, you know, there has to be an exception for you. And this is outside of anything HRT or
Right,
stuff.
yeah.
This is a mental approach to taking care of your body the best you possibly can. And that is, at some point you need to feed it instead of this 1200 or 18, and appreciate you fixing the body to the very best. So you get to climb the mountain again, instead of saying, I got to stay on top of the mountain. Well, they don't even do that. They come back down, they regroup, they repack, they get their food, they go back up the mountain until you're on the peak again.
Yeah.
And it seems like the world has lost that, and they want to stay on top of the mountain and nobody can bump them off. And I don't want to share that mountain with anybody. I know that's a little deeper and stuff, but
no, but I'm glad you brought it up, because I think, like, we can say social media has been very negative in that aspect, but I think a positive of it, because I'm thinking from personal experience, like literally from someone who had deep insecurities and still has insecurities. I think everybody does to a degree. The first bulk that I did, I was like, you know what? I'm going to document this and show people what this process looks like. And it literally was the best thing that I could have done. Because instead of feeling like, well, I can't take pictures and I got to do it at a certain angle, people know what I'm doing. And it liberated me of feeling like I had to look a certain way all the time. And women, because I'm a woman, women were like, oh, you don't look sloppy. Like, it's not gaining gobs of fat. I still held some visual abs. Again, we're all our own worst critic, but people were like, wow, Ali actually doesn't look like a slob. Like, this is cool. And so I showed people, like, this is what it looks like. And then when I dieted down again, that's usually the only side that people see, is when someone's prepping for something. And then the process of that, and how that takes like a year, not a few weeks, because growing muscle, as you know, works at a snail's pace. Losing fat's way quicker. So showing people how that happens, you could only do that through social media and updates, and showing people like, oh, this is how much I gained. And, you know, I think I gained like 7 or 8 pounds, which for me, I'm 5'3", is a lot. And I showed people that, hey, if I could do it, you can do it. And it's really not that bad. And it's actually great for your health, like you were talking about before. It allows your body to be like, oh, okay, we're not going to be like trying to survive and trash our hormones. We're actually going to get food. This is cool. And the cool thing about eating food, you have more energy. And when you have more energy, you lift more in the gym, like I did, you know, in front of you. And then you build more muscle.
I'd like to finish this with some great tips on
just the tip.
Yeah, just the tip, just for a minute, just to see how it feels. Sorry. Maybe even something like this, like your top 5 food, protein, fats, and I set one to Stan last night, carbohydrates. And I sent him a list of what your guys's Instagram influencers said is the 10 best. And then I wanted to test Stan, and he sent it back, and I go, okay, yeah, I see why you switched it. And it was more relevant to what my and his belief are. But I'd like to see what you got with your studies on, here's some foods that maybe protein wise, top 5, whatever you like, some fats, some nuts, whatever it is to help boost your testosterone, that may help with the erections. If that makes sense to you.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, red meat is my number one. And I think the way that that's been demonized is just annoying.
Right.
So I know Stan's a big red meat fan too. We've eaten burgers together. So it's literally my top choice, especially for women, because they bleed every month. So kind of need to replenish the iron and stuff. And it's got the most nutrients out of any of the animal proteins. So that would be my number one. And that would be flank steak, skirt steak, filet, like ground beef. And there's so many different companies that make ground beef that you can get online. So it's very easy to get, very lean. So even when I'm dieting, I'm using 96%, and you can make it taste good. Yeah. I just douse it in like coconut aminos. So I'm not a chef by all means.
Coconut aminos.
Have you ever tried them?
I haven't. How do I
Dude.
not even know this?
I just blew your mind.
Yeah, you did.
You're
You're gonna send me a link later.
Yeah,
I gotta get some of that. That's wow. Okay,
it's the easiest
that
thing.
just turned me on. I think I'm blood flow's good.
And for blood flow, beets are a good thing, like nitrates that are in spinach, oysters being an aphrodisiac because they're very heavy in zinc. And I think that the macadamia nuts are one of the better fat profiles. Olive oils, like healthy oils, because it'll help maintain cholesterol, which does produce hormones, but it doesn't have to be all the fat.
Right.
And then carbs are, I think, underrated. A lot of people are afraid of them, men especially. White rice is like literally the most versatile thing on earth. Like how many different cultures eat it, and it tastes amazing. So white rice, cereal, I think, is also highly underrated. Cereal is great because we get guys that are upwards of like 400 or 500 plus grams of carbs sometimes. You're not going to sit and eat sweet potatoes and like bags of rice to get that in. I mean, it's very difficult. Yeah. So cereal is great. And
can you give me 3 cereals that you recommend?
I love Rice Chex and then like any of the different types.
Cocoa Puffs is not. And,
Cocoa Puffs are good. Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Fruity Peppers.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Yes.
Yeah.
What was the pirate?
Captain Crunch.
Captain Crunch. Yeah, but that's like, I mean, it's
Fruity
old.
Pebble?
Fruity Pebbles, Rice
Cocoa
Krispies,
Pebbles,
dude.
like-
oh, we're gonna flash this up here for you guys because that's
Frosted Flakes.
wow. Okay, so that's some great insight, and I love the fact that you say carbohydrates do get a bad because they do, and I think I'm still here today because if this makes sense, I never let my body not understand how to utilize carbohydrates. And I never starved it and tried to teach it a different way to utilize foods and change something else to the energy. And so I still can use carbohydrates. My body loves them. It helps me. And you can see how fast it reacts when I remove it to do a slice and get ready.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, all right, here we go.
I think it's because when you do remove carbs, you get that initial water drop and people think, oh, they cause weight loss.
Let me keep it out. No.
And a lot of guys that have come to me eating very low carb, they just feel flat and small. And then all of a sudden they eat carbs and it's driving their energy and performance in the gym. And then all of a sudden they have veins, they have muscles, and then they can get dick skin lean. Big
That's
thing.
a great fact. And that's where I'm on the route to get dick skin lean again right now. I got another movie coming up here. And so I don't know what kind of cowboy was ripped and as jacked as I am, but I get to play a cowboy, but I want to be dick skin. And so it is slice and dice time. I'm doing the 30-day blitz. We're just getting crazy on this stuff.
There is a measurement to dick skin too. My coach, Luke Lieben, did it. And he's like, I think it was like 0.2 millimeters or something. But if you want to measure, you can let us know.
I got a question for you. Is your spouse finding out that before you got married that you sucked a lot of dick? Is that wrong?
Is that wrong?
Or is she just overreacting?
Oh, your spouse, you mean?
See what I did there, guys?
Okay.
See when I want to find out a level of your
I was like, wait
a minute, what?
Because I mean that's not true.
No. You're awesome. Oh, you're
awesome,
I
dude.
had to test you, and I freaking love. Hi. All right.
Hey,
She's
Bruce.
Some nasty jokes over
Can
here.
you grab my backpack for me? I have a present for him. I brought you just the tip.
You're giving me a wiener.
The little squishy.
This is great. Mark Bell gave me this little thing that you flop around.
So I gave one of those to Mark too, and Nsima had him do an outro in one of their episodes. So you have to do the same thing.
That.
So you have to make him talk.
Manager Matt sent me a photo, and this is what it looks like. So a little close up on that.
What about Bruce? How does he measure up to that?
Oh no, Bruce is like a hound dog. He's yeah. Here's Bruce.
Probably Squishy.
What? Thanks for doing this today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
This is awesome.
You're great, and that's so insightful, and you just help tons of people.
Well, that's what I try to do.
It's
I want guys to normalize boner talk, you know?
all right.
Because they should.
All right.